Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's webinar. It's a pleasure to have you all join us for what promises to be an engaging and insightful session on 4G, 5G RAN, core, and Wi-Fi testing, a comprehensive overview of Amantya's test automation suite. I'm Rohina Chawla, the moderator for today's session. A few points before we begin. We will share a recording of the webinar with you all to revisit at your convenience and share ahead. Also, we recommend that you use headphones for a better experience. Lastly, if you have any questions or clarifications during the session, please park them in the Q&A window and we shall take them up at the end. In today's session, we will explore how Amantya Technologies' advanced testing tools streamline and transform testing processes for 4G, 5G RAN, ORAN, core, and Wi-Fi networks. From automation and scalability to precision and efficiency, we will showcase how our test automation suite is redefining telecom infrastructure validation. To take us through the session, joining us is a seasoned expert from Amantya, whose contributions have been pivotal in the development of the company's highly evolved test automation suite. Amantya's VP Engineering, Gaurav Sharma. I will quickly introduce Gaurav before we begin the session. With over 2 decades of experience in the telecom industry, Gaurav has played a key role in shaping Amantya's wireless test automation and AI solution portfolios. He combines deep expertise in network technologies with a forward-thinking approach to AI integration, making him a driving force in advancing Amantya's next-generation telecom solutions. So without further ado, let me hand over the floor to Gaurav. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thanks, Rohina, for that introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I see a lot of guests have already joined in. So I think we can start now, right? Okay. So today what I'll be doing is that I'll be walking you through the various products that we have on the testing side, right? We being a telecom-focused organization, there is a suite of products that we've developed to test various components of a mobile network. And we've also forayed into the Wi-Fi testing as well, right? So let me just start this webinar. And the way we've structured this webinar is to actually start with the company overview, which will give you some background as to who we are, what kind of work that we do. And then I'll jump into the testing portfolio that we have, which will be followed by our testing approach. And you'll be able to then appreciate that the approach that we have, right, that has influenced some of the development or the implementation work that we've done in our tools as well, right? I'll also then start describing or talking more about specifically about the 4 products that are part of this webinar today: AutoRAN, Delphi, Orca, Auto Wi-Fi. And this will be followed by the use cases of our Amantya's test suite. And yeah, I'll also be talking about some of the case studies that we have, and then I'll open the forum to questions and answers. So hopefully, this particular webinar will give you a good insight into the various products that we built over the years, how to use them, their capabilities, and how they can help various stakeholders or various organizations to actually test some of their solutions. Okay, so starting from the company overview, right? We built a comprehensive testing portfolio. And the reason behind this was that we, being a telecom-focused organization, we were building a lot of 4G, 5G products, and the genesis of our testing suite comes from that, right? So we built a lot of these products for our own internal testing, and then looking at the demand that we were getting and the potential of these tools, we then started independently evolving these products, and they have been very well received by different customers of ours. We have supplied these to a number of partners and customers and so on, right? A quick introduction about the organization. So we are close to around 600 engineers at this point in time. We have offices spread across US, Canada, India. So in India, we are at 3 locations. The organization per se is more telecom focused, and we have a number of products in that area. We also have a very good. Okay, so let me. So I've been requested to switch on the camera as well. Okay, so we also have a very good ODM partner ecosystem. So a lot of products that we build, right? These we take all these ODM partners along with us. Right? In terms of testing accelerators, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are primarily 4 different products or accelerators that we have. So AutoRAN, AutoRAN is something that we use for 4G, 5G RAN test automation. Delphi is a smaller version of AutoRAN and can be used for testing smaller setups. Then we have the Orca suite of products. Now that is used for 5G testing, and then I'll talk more about this particular product a little bit later. So you have both the user plane as well as the control plane testing that can be done via this. Now, the interesting thing is that for our different products, there is this common automation layer as well, which you can see in all our products. And I'll give you some insights about that as well. It's again a very powerful abstraction over these different hardwares. We also have recently built a Wi-Fi test automation product we call it the Auto Wi-Fi. We are members of the Wi-Fi Alliance as well. And yeah, so we've forayed into that area as well. In terms of testing services, as you can see, we provide services around these different products also. So when I say services, this may be related to custom test case creation or configuration, generation of custom reports. Plus, at the same point of time, since all these products are quite extensible or customizable, all right? So in case if any organization has an existing automation framework, we can easily integrate these products with the organization's testing framework, right? We also provide services around simulation and emulator development as well. Now, these products that I've mentioned, plus some of the services also that I've mentioned, so these can be used for functional, non-functional conformance, performance, load tests, and then so on. Let me jump to the next slide. Okay, so this is a quick introduction into the testing portfolio that we have. The first product is the RAN test automation system, right? So essentially what this test automation framework or solution provides is the ability to test 4G, 5G RAN. And the way it does that is that using real handsets or modems, right? You actually test your RAN part or the radio part. This also provides a test automation system running on top of it, which actually manages all these different devices, test cases, and so on. The other smaller version of this particular product, AutoRAN, is the Delphi, which is a smaller test automation framework. The next part is the Orca. Now, Orca is a suite of testing products that we have. So we started building this particular product for user plane testing. And there are a few very interesting things that we've done on the user plane testing, and then kind of enhanced this product further for your 5G core network testing. Again, it's a software simulation product. So it will also give you capabilities for non-functional performance test cases and so on. Now, the other product is the Wi-Fi test automation system. This is something that we recently built. And then this is focused on testing the Wi-Fi products, right? Now, when I say Wi-Fi products, so typically, say you have an access point and you want to test the capabilities of that particular access point. It may also be a SoC. So you can actually use this particular test, a particular framework to actually test the access points or FWAs. Okay, so moving forward on to this, I'll start describing each of these products in more detail. So for AutoRAN, now typically the device under test, as I mentioned, this is your RAN part, right? And the good part is we provide support for various types of RAN, right? So it can be an integrated or more traditional G node B or E node B. Or it can be an ORAN based RAN as well, right? So the testing framework has the capability to actually integrate with all these different types of RANs and actually help in either testing the full RAN or components of the RAN. Now, through AutoRAN, we provide the ability for feature testing. So you can test the various features of your RAN, performance testing. So it's a extensible system, AutoRAN. So you can have these multiple handsets, devices, modems, right, that you can use to actually test the performance of your RAN. You can also create a number of real life scenarios with this particular testing solution, right? So mobility, handover, so you can test those scenarios as well. Another very interesting feature of this particular testing product is the KPI testing or the counter testing. So we do provide the capability to actually test your counters that your system is generating and kind of verify those counters using this particular solution. Orca, so this is a software solution that we have that can be used to actually test your 5G SA core. And when I say SA core, you can test both your control plane, which means the signaling part of 5G SA, plus the user plane as well. When I say the user plane, so we have a very intuitive mix of traffic profiles that kind of mimics real world scenarios. So you can use this particular tool for testing that. And again, similarly here as well, you can do feature testing. So a lot of different signaling scenarios, positive, negative, you can do using this particular tool. Performance testing is also something that can be done through this tool. And when I say performance testing, it's both signaling. So you can simulate a number of thousands of subscribers. You can also simulate various data sessions. You can use this particular tool for various testing various 5G or 4G features, interworking scenarios, and so on. Now, moving to the auto Wi-Fi, this is something that can be used to test both your access points, fixed wireless, FWAs, Wi-Fi mesh networks. And herein, again, there are a number of different scenarios that you can test, right? So it can be throughput testing, can be connectivity related test cases, application performance, benchmarking, and so on. Now, Delphi, as I just mentioned, it's a smaller version of AutoRAN. So as far as the testing capabilities are concerned, or feature testing is concerned, this is at par with AutoRAN. I mean, the only difference being that since it's a smaller testing solution, so the number of handsets or the modems that you use or that are provided, that is on the lower side. Okay, so moving on to the testing portfolio objective, right? Now, this is kind of very important because at the end of the day, the products that we have made, they are made to actually meet all these objectives, right? Now, as as a product development organization, right, we are very clear on what goes into building a particular product, how to test it, and what are the key things that we look into any testing solution, right? And these objectives are kind of aligned to that. So first and foremost is the automation part of it, right? Now, uh, telecom testing has been tough, right? And so it's all the more important that the testing tool provides good automation testing capabilities, right? So when I say automation capabilities, what I'm referring to are the capabilities to automate test cases, execute those test cases, and the most important part is a intelligent analysis framework. Now, why this is important is because uh, to actually see whether a test case is pass or fail, especially in the context of telecom protocols and the whole network, it may not be as simple as just looking at a final message that, okay, the registration has succeeded. But the test case may require testers to look into the message flows, various information elements or parameters that have been passed, and then conclude that the testing is successful or not, right? So our automation system from that perspective is very evolved, right? There are user-based rules, and plus we've also added AI flavor to it, which does a lot of log analysis and finds out some of the RCAs or protocol deviations from the various messages that are collected from the network. The other part is the test coverage part of it, right? Now, to test comprehensively, say 5G RAN or say a 5G core, right? You would need to have test cases spread across all different features and all different nodes, right? And then this also means that you would need to have a good variety of handsets, modems, simulators, and then so on to actually test these scenarios, right? So we do take that into account and provide a lot of pre-built test cases as well to actually test a particular feature, right? So ensuring this thing that for an organization that may not be very well versed with these different scenarios, they can run pre-built test cases through this system and can be sure that their system is well tested, right? So that's another important objective. The third is increased efficiency and speed. Now, we would not want a system that is inefficient in terms of the time that it takes to test the whole product, right? So we do provide a very efficient and fast framework for this. There is a lot of parallelism involved while executing these test cases, which means that the testing that can be done within the specified time frame. At the same point of time, as I mentioned earlier, we do provide a set of pre-written test cases. And these may be your sanity suits, these may be your regression suits, feature test cases, specific domain test cases, right, as a part of our standard offering. Integration. Now, that's another key objective. Now, any automation system, and we do realize this thing that a lot of organizations out there have their own testing frameworks already developed and well entrenched into their environment, right? And nobody would want to throw that away, right? So what we also provide is a very seamless way to integrate these products into their existing testing environment, right? And the way we do it is through standard REST APIs. So you can either integrate these systems into your test automation systems directly or through test pipelines. If you're running a CI/CD pipeline, you can very easily integrate these solutions into them as well, right? Now, the other objective that we were kind of chasing when developing these particular tools was the improved quality of service, which means that the product, once tested, that is stable and the bugs, right? It's the solution is able to actually find these bugs before the product goes to the market, and that's the reason why we have actually created these products to actually enable a lot of real world scenarios, right? So that's the reason why we are using real handsets, UEs, right? And of course, there is this capability of actually having a SDR based handsets or a number of handsets so to increase the number of handsets that you're using for testing. Now, in terms of network parity, now this is also kind of important because at the end of the day, you would also want to test, say, a 5G RAN or other components, right? In an environment which is very similar to the actual network, right? So that's the reason why we do provide a lot of various combinations to actually create the same. Now, talking about the approach that we typically take to run these different test testing solutions is kind of quite intuitive, right? And very easy to appreciate and digest, right? So we start with configuring the network topology. Now, what does that mean? So it simply means that, say, you have an AutoRAN, which is used for, say, your G-Node B testing, right? Now, since the product is uh, since the product is able to actually capture logs, it's able to integrate with so many other components, right? So the first step is to configure some of these things. So within the automation, within the testing product or the solution, right, you can configure the network topology. Now, what I mean by that is you can configure the IP addresses of the various components that are running. Now, this may be your E node B, G node B, and in case of an ORAN where the CU, DU, etc. is running. Similarly, if I'm talking about Orca or the auto core, you can configure the various core NFs and Wi-Fi as well, where the system under test is running. Now, this feature also provides you the capability to gather or capture KPIs, logs, PCAPs, messages, etc., from those specific NFs, components, and so on. And once these logs, KPIs, etc., are captured from all these different NFs or components, they are then used by the intelligent verification system running in our automation frameworks to actually validate the results of the test cases. So the first step is configuring of the network topology. Now, once this is done, the system is ready for test case writing, right? The next step is test creation. We provide a very intuitive, very easy way of writing test cases. So testers who may not be aware of the actual protocol flow, even they can use the very intuitive UI that we have to actually create different test scenarios. Now, to further ease this thing, we do provide a suite of pre-built test cases, right? Now, so we've classified these into various groups. So say, for example, throughput tests, feature tests, if you have to test different features, you have a sanity regression test suite, right? And so on. From a Wi-Fi perspective, we are now bundling, or that's something in the works now for the certification test cases as well. Another unique feature of our automation framework is the custom tests. Now, this is a very powerful feature. So say if testers have a very complex test case wherein they would want to analyze a particular parameter, verify a particular parameter, or verify multiple parameters spread across multiple messages and come up with a very complex business logic. Now, at times, graphical interfaces may fall short of that, right? So what we provide is a mechanism wherein Python scripts can be written by the tester or the developer to actually customize these test cases further. For this purpose, we provide an SDK through which developers can write these test cases easily. So I'll give you a very small example. Say, if somebody wants to run a very basic, say, a registration scenario, right? But then he or she wants to see or analyze or verify some of the parameters and their values coming in, say, one of the messages. This may be authentication, this may be a registration accept message, this may be on the RRC side or whatever it is. We do provide the capability for doing the same through this particular feature, right? Another very important thing is that, say, in case if you need to verify some of the parameters from the handset or the modem that we've integrated into our system, we provide the capability to do that as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that feature a little bit later when I describe about the AutoRAN in a bit. So once you've written these test cases or selected these test cases, you can then go ahead and then schedule the execution of these test cases. Again, there's a very intuitive scheduler, which is part of the AutoRAN. So you can just go ahead, schedule test cases. They can be in a periodic running mode as well. So say, for example, you have a CI/CD pipeline, right? So every night you have alpha or beta builds coming in. So you can periodically schedule test cases. You can also have some use case specific testing, as I mentioned, through a combination of custom scripts, pre-built test cases, and so on. Now, the final part is that once you've executed these different test cases, is the generation and the analysis of the test reports. Now, herein again, what we are doing is that once all these test cases are run, we do provide reporting facilities, and then reporting is kind of again quite intuitive in the sense that there is a summary part which actually describes the test suit cases, and then you need to see just the summary, and then you have detailed testing as well. Right. Now I'll quickly go through the product overview. So first product that I'll pick is the AutoRAN. Now this is the standard 4G, 5G RAN testing solution that we have. Now this consists of multiple racks in a chassis, right? So you have, so you can plug in modems, you can plug in devices, you can plug in attenuators, you have emulators running through this as well, and then you have a controller software running on top of it. Now, some of the features here are, as I mentioned earlier, so you can do a lot of parallel execution of test scenarios. This also gives you the ability to actually do in-depth logging. So not only can we retrieve logs from system under test, we can also retrieve logs from the handsets and the devices. And then based on combination of all these logs or the information that we've connected, we can do intelligent analysis. We also provide the support for digital attenuation to actually create more realistic scenarios, mobility, interference, and so on. Right. Now, one of the important feature that we built into our common testing framework is the AI-enabled smart log analysis, right? So we have trained AI models to actually detect issues. We are able to actually recognize some of the pattern deviations or 3GPP protocol violations through our trained AI models. Another very important ability of this particular framework is to do voice quality score, right? So say if I have a G node B or a RAN and I want to see the voice quality as well, we have the capability to actually run voice quality scores into this as well. It's kind of quite comprehensive in that manner. Moving to the next part is the Delphi This is again a smaller version of AutoRAN. So say if you have a smaller test setup, or you want to run a smaller test setup, you can use this unit, right? So it gives you, from a feature perspective, it's kind of more or less equivalent to the AutoRAN, but from a hardware perspective, there are limited number of devices that you can attach to this particular solution, right? Uh, it's again, so you still have the ability to test your 4G, 5G ORAN, right? In terms of logging, it provides you the ability to capture a lot of logs from your modems, handsets, right? L3 messages, NAS, S1AP, NGAP, SIP, RTP, we're able to capture those. We're able to parse those messages, validate um, information elements from those, and then so on. Again, we can do a combination of multiple devices as well, right? The good part is that if you have a test case that is written on AutoRAN, right? So since we have this common automation framework, you can seamlessly use that over this particular solution as well, right? In case if you want to integrate it with your existing CI/CD pipeline, we do provide the RESTful interface for that as well. Moving forward, now this is our Orca product suite, right? Now this is oriented towards your 5G core testing, right? Now for 5G core testing, essentially there are two important aspects. One is the user plane testing and one is the control plane testing. Now this particular tool gives you the ability to test both user plane as well as the control plane. It's a software based solution, and it simulates both the UE and the GNodeB part, right? And it also has an automation framework running on top of it. Again, in terms of capabilities, since it's a common automation framework that we have, so you can do a lot of logging. You can capture logs from different devices under test, and then you can write verification logic for the same. Right. Again, it's extensible. It's something that can be integrated to your existing pipelines as well through the REST or the HTTP APIs. Now, from a user plane testing perspective, it provides some very intuitive traffic patterns or traffic profiles, right? To actually again mimic some of the real life scenarios, right? So say, how does an enterprise traffic look like, right? So you can see that, okay, the email or the meeting traffic is for a particular percentage. So you can have that mix. Even if you want to create different scenarios, we do provide the ability for you to customize different traffic patterns through this, right? In case if you want to test various GNodeBs or UEs, so you can simulate all these, and the numbers you can see, we can emulate say 200K UEs, we can emulate 10,000 GNodeBs. So which means that if you want to do some sort of performance testing of your 5G core, you can use this particular product as well. The last product is the Wi-Fi testing automation, and this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that we've recently built, and this again leverages some of the accelerators that we had, plus at the same point of time the experience that we garnered from some of these building some of these earlier products, right? So again, we can do Wi-Fi testing. So we do provide the support of Wi-Fi 5, 6, 6E. Wi-Fi 7 is something on the roadmap. Again, we can run these test cases in parallel. We are member of Wi-Fi Alliance, right? We are building the certification suite as a part of this thing. And which means that this particular product you can use for your access points, you can use for FWA router testing, and so on. And again, it gives you the similar set of capabilities, right? So in case if you want to integrate it with your existing pipelines, you can do that. If you want to create various different scenarios, mobility scenarios, so say for example, you want to test your Wi-Fi mesh, so you want to test different access points of satellites stations through this, you can do those sort of things. You can integrate this with attenuators and then so on. From a real life perspective, you are then able to simulate a house sort of a thing, right? Where multiple rooms, multiple floors, and so on. Right, so that was a quick overview of the different test suite products that I wanted to talk about, right? I hope that gives all of you some more idea into the product suite that we've built. I would like to continue this further by giving you some of the real examples wherein these products are deployed and are being tested or are being used, right? So the first is, this was again a very interesting thing. So for one of the Indian OEMs, they wanted to test their RAN, but apart from the normal feature testing, they also wanted to test their counters using this particular product, right? So when I say counters, L2, L3 counters and so on, right? So one of the important features or very fruitful features of this particular product is that you can also, and then we do provide some of these as inbuilt into the solution, are the counters testing or the KPI testing, right? So you can actually run your product suite. The system generates KPIs. The system can fetch the KPIs from the system under test as well, and then it can kind of verify or compare these different KPIs. In case if they match, well and good. In case not, then this gives you the logs to actually further analyze the test case. Now, the other important test case that they wanted to execute was the VoLTE call and check the voice quality, right? So as I mentioned earlier, these test scenario, this particular test solution provides you the capability to actually integrate it with the Polka or what's called sort of a server, and then test the MOS score. This can also be used for testing the RAN features, right? So that's the primary use case. And this is applicable both for SA and as well as the NSA part, right? As I mentioned earlier, we do provide a lot of pre-integrated test cases, and we provided a lot of pre-integrated test cases to this particular customer as well, right? And the way we did it was then we started first by deploying this particular solution into their labs. It was a 64 UE configuration with attenuators and automation framework, which now is being scaled up further. The integration with eNodeB was done, the topology was defined. We were able to get logs, KPIs, run commands, right? So all of that was there. The test cases, of course, there were certain pre-existing test cases. Then we, as a part of services, we provided additional capabilities. And on the counter automation as well, as I mentioned earlier, we wrote a number of things for the same. The second interesting case study is, again, a global leader in telecommunications. They wanted to test handover scenarios across their solution, right? And especially handover scenarios and the impact that it has on data and voice quality, right? So what we did was, again, we did provide them this particular product, AutoRAN. And there are a number of handover pre-built test cases that we do provide. So we provided those. And since there was a big list of test cases that they wanted to run, so we, as I mentioned earlier, we do provide the capability of running a number of parallel test cases. Herein, again, what we did was that once we provided these tests and the whole testing solution to them, we created these scenarios of handover and mobility using attenuators, right, for each test case. And after the handover was done, since the verification logic that we have, that's quite comprehensive and evolved, right? So you can have a combination of user plane or throughput analysis and signaling analysis as well. And based on the combination of these analysis, you can then say that the test case is passed or if it's not working, right? So what we were able to do is ensure this thing that the handover signaling is correctly done. And once this is done, the packet drops or any deviations that we see in the voice quality or the data quality, that was immediately flagged. So this was again something which mimics real world scenarios quite well, right? And herein again, we in fact integrated with their existing CI/CD pipeline also, so that these scenarios are run with nightly builds that they had. This was again an interesting thing. The third scenario was more on the functional and data plane testing using Orca. And herein, again, what the customer was looking for was testing the user plane part of it, and with various different traffic profiles, right? And this is something that we ran on from the AWS, all right? So a lot of these software components, that is something that we can run from AWS. So it's quite an easy deployment. So and you can obviously take instances of these from us running on the AWS or the public cloud. We can also deploy these on your private clouds. And then what you can do is test your systems, which may be in-prem or wherever their location is, right? And we gave them a very intuitive mix of traffic profiles, right? As I mentioned earlier. So this product gives you that ability to run those different profiles. Traffic generation, how do you want to scale up traffic, right? So there are various mechanisms to actually do that as well. So they are also provided by this particular tool, right? So we provided this particular software to them and deployed this on AWS. We provided the API integration support as well for the same, and we were there providing the remote support as well, so that in case if there was anything that the customer wanted for us to either look into or maybe build a new test case, which their teams were not able to do, we were able to provide that as well, right? So that's a quick summary of our test cases and some of the interesting case studies for this. And just to let you guys know, we are participating in MWC Barcelona this year, right? So we would be there between 3rd and 6th March. So we are taking a extended team in there, where in fact we will be showcasing all the 4 products that I just spoke about, right? The booth number is 5A83. You can obviously visit our website and book a meeting with us, and we'll be very happy to actually show you these products, talk more about these products, and engage more on these particular products, right? So hope to see some of you in Barcelona as well. So that was a quick summary. I know these products in itself are quite evolved and comprehensive, but what I wanted to do was at least give you some glimpse into the capabilities of these particular products and how these products can actually be used for testing so many different 5G scenarios, right? So hopefully you guys were able to get a gist of it. I'll take a pause at this point in time, and probably I'll just open up the stage for question and answers.
Thanks, Gaurav. That was a very insightful walkthrough of Amantya's test automation suite. We'll now open the floor to questions. Please share them in the Q&A window, and we'll take them up one by one. Okay, I see there are quite a few questions already queued in. So taking up the first question, Gaurav, the first question is, did Amantya Group build this product or provide services for this product?
Okay, so we built the product grounds up, right? Around the services part, we do offer certain services as well around this particular product. Now, what does that mean? So when we built this particular product, so if you look at these are hardware solutions, at least the AutoRAN or the Delphi is a hardware solution, right? Auto Wi-Fi is again a hardware thing. The Orca series is a software solution that we have. We do provide these products off the shelf to our customers. Right now, the customization part or adding new test cases to these particular products, that is the services part of it. So I'll give you a very small example. We do provide certain pre-built test cases. Now, so let's take an example of a counter or a KPI. Now, there are essentially L2, L3 counters that we do provide as a part of this particular product suite. Now, in case if the customer wants us to add the capability to test another counter, right? We do provide services around this. So the customer can either reach out to us to actually enhance this further or come up with a custom test case. I mean, the solution in itself is quite extensible in that sense. Even the customers, if they want, they can write those test cases. But we do provide the capabilities to write these test cases in case if the customer wants us to integrate this particular solution to say some of their other nodes. Again, a very small example, say I want to run a test case, but before that test case, I want to do some sort of provisioning on, say, an HSS or a UDM, right? Each customer may have their own interfaces, right? This may be REST-based, this may be CLI-based or some other thing. So we do provide basic services around that as well, wherein people from our organization or my team can actually write these custom logic and provide to the customer, right? So we do provide end-to-end services in that sense. You get this product, you run the built-in test suite, but in case if there is a requirement to actually further enhance these test cases, we do provide those capabilities as well.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav. Now, before I move to the next question, one of the participants, S. Gulati, I think I see your hand is raised. If I could request you to put your query in the Q&A window, it'll streamline our questions. Thank you. Coming to the next question, Gaurav. How does Auto Wi-Fi emulate interference and multi-device interactions in dense deployments?
Okay. Now that's an interesting question, right? Because whenever you talk about Wi-Fi testing, right? Now the immediate thing that comes to one's mind is that, okay, I have a Wi-Fi router or a FWA or whatever it is lying in my home, right? And I want to connect devices to, say, my router, right? Now, if you look at the home environment, right? So you have these multiple rooms, multiple floors as well, right? And because of all these different things, there's a lot of complexity or dynamism that comes into picture, right? So the way we do it is that we take a combination of attenuators that actually modify the signal strength or the signal characteristics. That's one part. The other thing are using RF shield boxes, right? So what we are able to do is to very precisely control the signal strength and certain other parameters that get seen by the system under test as well as your Wi-Fi devices, right? Now, all these components are software controlled. So say, for example, I write a test case wherein I want to test the mobility part, right? So a very simple example, I have a iPad or a device in my house, and I start moving from, say, my drawing room to my bedroom, right? Which means that I'll be switching the satellite stations or the access points, right? So what we provide through our Auto Wi-Fi is the ability to actually independently put these things in a shield box, control the signal, put these devices in the shield box. So essentially what happens is that if I need to simulate mobility, right, I'll be reducing through my test case in stepwise or whatever that procedure I want to follow, the signal from one particular access point and increase the signal on the other access point, which means that to my device, it seems that it is moving from one location to other. And it also means that my device would now start seeing the signals, strong signals coming from the other access point, and it will start communicating via the other access point, right? So that's how we actually emulate or simulate all these different scenarios. We can create single room scenarios as well, right? We can also create the ability to run multiple devices latched on to a particular router, right? So in case if you want to see the behavior of router when multiple devices are coming. So yeah, so that's hopefully explains how you test them.
The next question, Gaurav, is how do tools facilitate end-to-end automation and data exchange in complex multi-vendor testing environments?
Okay. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, because if you look at normal telecom networks, right, you always see scenarios where you have components coming from multiple vendors, right? And these may be provisioning components, these may be network functions, UPF, and so on. So the way we do it is that since the framework in itself is quite customizable, right? We are able to actually integrate to a number of different NFs, modules, provisioning systems, and so on, right? So let's again take a very simple scenario, right? I have a provisioning system from X vendor with one of my customers, and a different provisioning system from a different vendor, right? One may be using CLI, one may be using HTTP-based interfaces, one may be using something else. Okay. At the same point of time, if I want to take logs out of these things, right? If I want to actually get KPIs out of these independent nodes, each vendor may have their own ways of doing it. The system is quite extensible in that sense, and we do provide the SDK. So there's a very easy mechanism to actually integrate a CLI-based interface. There's again a very simple mechanism to actually integrate your SNMP interface or your HTTP-based interface, right? Which means that if in case of a multi-vendor environment, right, the system can talk to a provisioning node that may be running on CLI. It may be able to actually get some of the SNMP counters from another node. It may be able to get some PCAP logs from a different node altogether. So it's quite extensible in that sense. The good part is once all this information is fetched within our automation framework, the logic running is so comprehensive that from all these different locations, once the data is retrieved, so you can write test cases that actually spread across or are able to analyze information from all these different places, and then verify whether the test cases pass, fail, or whatever it is. So you can ask the next question.
Gaurav, our next question is, what is the compatibility between AutoRAN and Huawei vendor?
Okay, so if you look at AutoRAN, so let me first talk about the standard air interface, right? Now, as far as the standard air interface is concerned, right, we do follow the 3GPP specifications of the devices or the modems. They are standard off the shelf devices or modems, right? So that takes care of the interface part of it, right? Now, as far as the Huawei components are concerned, right? So if they are running on the network side, right? As I mentioned, we can integrate with various mechanisms, right? REST, CLI, HTTP, and so on, right? In case if there is the need to integrate or develop a new interface on the core side or on the RAN side, we are able to actually very easily integrate with those things. On the handsets or the modem side of it as well, Qualcomm or iOS devices, and when we are talking about Huawei, probably it's more on the Android side of this as well. So we are actually able to get a lot of logs as well out of the devices also. So depending upon which Huawei components are we referring to, we do provide the capability to actually get information out of it, right? So yeah.
Okay, Gaurav, some part of this question you have answered, but I'll repeat the question. Does the AutoRAN suite provide a full feature test based on 3GPP conformance of RAN G-Node B on release 1516? Can I also test an NSA scenario of the 4G 5G RAN connect to a common BBU?
Sure. So yeah, we do provide pre-built test scenarios with our system. Uh, in in fact, so as I mentioned earlier, the test cases or pre-built test cases that we provide, we've kind of grouped them into a number of different scenarios, right? So these may be feature, functional, regression, sanity, throughput, and so on, right? So based on that, you can, of course, utilize some of these test cases and release 15, release 16. I mean, the modems on the hardware that we use that supports release 16. So you can do that as well, right? I think the second part was more on the customization part. So you can obviously go ahead and write new test cases or integrate with it. Rohina, can you repeat the second part of the question? I think I missed that part.
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Can I also test an NSA scenario of the 4G 5G RAN connect to a common BBU?
Okay, so you can do that, right? As I mentioned, the system under test for us is the Gnode B part, Gnode B, right? You can obviously have these different combinations, right? Essentially, what we can do is, since again, as I mentioned, I mean, we can integrate with different devices, right? It's easy for us to do that. So even we can create this particular sort of scenario, we would be able to get logs out of the different Gnode B components, right? BBUs and other, and then actually utilize these logs to actually test or verify some of these scenarios. So say, for example, you want to verify certain MAC level parameters or PDCP parameters or whatever it is. And if the system allows us to get these messages or it provides us the interface to get those messages, we will very easily retrieve these messages. And of course, on the handset side, of course, we are able to get L2, L3 messages. And once we've collected these messages, the intelligent logic running or the verification logic running, that can you can use that to verify all these different test scenarios.
Right. Gaurav, before I ask you the next question, to all the participants, in case you have any other questions, please do share them with us. Even if we cannot, reply to them right away, if Gaurav is not able to take them up right away, we'd be really happy to respond to them offline. So please do ask your questions. Gaurav, the next question is, does energy savings have an effect with this?
Energy savings? That's an interesting question, right? So partly, yes, I would like to say, okay, so when so if I've understood the question correctly, right, is the person who has asked this question coming from a more SMO RIC background? In case yes, so essentially what we can do is uh, if there is a RApp that is actually doing the energy saving logic, right? The system can actually integrate or get KPIs from the system, right? And actually see that the energy savings, those are correctly applied or not applied. So we do provide the capability, but then that's more in terms of integrating with SMO or RIC sort of a functionality and fetching logs out of it, right? So we can do that. It's something that, I mean, honestly speaking, nobody has asked us to do, but I don't see any reason why we would not be able to do that. But again, that's more of a SMO RIC thing, right? So that is something in case if there is so if I need to write a test case, right, that I've run my particular scenario and I want to run certain provisioning commands on my Gnode V or whatever it is to actually simulate a scenario wherein to actually understand that, say, if my cell is put to a sleep mode, or if I change the number of PRBs, or if I change the number of, or if I reduce the bandwidth, right? What is the impact that has on, that it has on my handset? So we can create those sort of scenarios. The cell just needs, or the Gnode V just needs to provide me either the O1 interface or the E2 interface or whatever it is, wherein I can actually go ahead and change the state of the cell and then run my test case, get the logs out of system, and then verify that if I put the cell into a particular state, what is the impact that it has on either my throughput or the signaling. So let's take a very simple example that I need to test the impact on my throughput. When I say throughput, latency, as well as say the speed. So I can write a test case. The first step of the test case may be sending a command via the O1 interface or the E2 interface to actually put the cell into a particular state, reduce the number of PRBs or whatever it is. The next step is, of course, running this particular throughput. And once the throughput runs, now based on the logs that we get on the throughput, right, we are then able to actually see if there's a drop in in the final throughput or increase in the latency, and then compare it with the throughput analysis that we did when a particular cell was not in an energy saving mode. So yeah, essentially we can do that.
Thank you, Gaurav. So I think most of the questions have been addressed. If we have missed any, we'll respond to them offline after the session.
Yeah.
And so with this, we come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you, Gaurav, for your valuable insights. And thank you all for attending. We hope you found the webinar insightful. Feel free to reach out to us at connect@amantyatech.co if you have any further questions or would like more details. And we look forward to seeing you guys at MWC. The details are in the chat window. Please do take a look. And these will also be available on our website. The recording will be available soon for your reference. Stay tuned for more such updates from Amantya, and we look forward to seeing you in future webinars. Bye-bye.